Hello, my loves, and welcome back to an episode on embracing power and potential. Not much of a life update from me this week, so I'm just going to get straight into this week's episode. Welcome, listeners, to Embracing Power and Potential, your go-to podcast where we travel through the realms of personal growth, mindset mastery, and fear-conquering strategies to help achieve your greatest desires. I'm your host, Portia, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this transformative experience. If you're ready to unleash your authentic power and elevate your life, you're in the right place. Join me and our special guests as we embark on conversations that will broaden your horizons and enrich your journey. So, sit back and immerse yourself in these unmatched discussions. It's time to expand your mind and your life. So the topic that I want to talk about today is about happiness. Is happiness real? How do we achieve happiness? So that's something that I want to dive into today, because we spend our whole lives chasing happiness, like it's somewhere that we will eventually arrive at. Because let's be real, everyone wants to be happy. That's just a theme of life. And you think when we finally have that career or the body or the house or find your love, then we will be happy. But what if happiness isn't actually a destination, but a direction? What if happiness isn't the absence of unhappiness, but the ability to move with it? So in one of my previous episodes, I did actually talk about the paradox of life. You can't have lightness without darkness. The same goes, you can't have happiness without experiencing unhappiness. So I believe that life is about balance and about balancing your emotions and taking control of them, and that's what I'm going to dive into today. For my personal experience that I can share around expecting to be happy, I remember when I lived in Melbourne for around 2 years. When I was only 19, I'd moved there, and it was one of the hardest, if that was the hardest time of my life. And by the end of it, I was in a better place than when I first moved there, just in my own journey of really diving into self-development and manifestation and like rebuilding my self-worth. But I wasn't happy. I was in a very unhealthy relationship, and I remember counting down literally the minutes before I could come home back to Adelaide and back to my family. And I remember thinking, once I'm home, once I'm back with my family, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy again. Fast forward a couple months later, when I did eventually was able to move back home, I actually realized that being home didn't change my internal state. At the time, I was doing a lot of inner work, so that definitely helped. But if I wasn't, I would be just as depressed, if not worse, when I got home, because that's when I started asking the question, is happiness even real? Or are we just looking at it wrong? Because I thought, once I changed my environment, once I was home with my family, then I would feel good. I'd feel happy again. But there was just something still a bit meh in my life. And that was because I had a lot of healing to do from the time that I was in Melbourne. and I still had to get my shit together again, and I wasn't in a good state internally. And that's when I realized we have to start looking at happiness differently. You can't find happiness, but you build emotional awareness and regulation that creates space for joy. So one way to, practice to be happy, because I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but I believe that happiness is actually a skill. So I read this book at the start of the year, and it was called Build Your Life by Oprah Winfrey. And it went through a few concepts around being happy and happiness. And so I've pulled a few of them today to include into this episode because I just think it's interesting, to change your perspective on being happy. So the first concept that is talked about in this book is metacognition, and the ability to watch your mind instead of being your mind. So we can be the observer of our thoughts and of our feelings, or we can identify with them. So instead of saying, "Oh, I'm angry," it becomes, it's a mindset shift. And you say instead, "I notice anger." So this is you being observant and being aware of your feelings, but not actually identifying as the feeling. That one word shift instantly gives you power. Instead of saying, "I'm angry," I notice anger. And then we come to emotional substitution. So choosing a higher energy state internally. Because remember, our thoughts and our feelings, we are humans, and emotions always come up because that's just a joy of being human. That is a prize that we get. But instead of suffering from the emotions that come up, it's being able to work with them and let them pass through us, and noticing and being aware of when we are feeling certain ways and being like, I'm triggered. I wonder why. And actually get curious about your different emotions, your different feelings that you get. And then choosing a higher energy state internally. So, as an example, if I feel frustration, can I shift to curiosity instead? And ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to show me? And you can actually check in with yourself. I would recommend to check in yourself a lot throughout the day, especially when you are starting, on a personal development journey, or if you are feeling a little low and you are feeling like you want to be happier and you feel like you don't know how. The first step is actually becoming aware of your emotions and checking in with yourself after your morning walk or after you've had breakfast. If you want to journal, is a good practice to really become aware of your emotions and to check in with your body and your mind by saying, what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? So these are certain journal prompts that you can actually write down. And these can be a little morning check-in that you do with yourself every day. And the last one, what emotion would better serve me today? Sometimes you know how you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're just a bit grumpy. Ask yourself why that's happening. Maybe you had a conversation yesterday that you still haven't really processed, and there's some underlying feelings there, and that's coming up today. Whatever it is, when you sit down with yourself and journal your thoughts out and actually become aware of your internal state, that is how you have power in your life. And over time, This actually rewires your emotional baseline. And then happiness becomes a skill, not just luck or waking up on the right side of the bed today. It becomes something that you can actually control. But remember that emotional self-management is not just pretending to be happy or just being optimistic and, burying your feelings and just smiling instead. Smile now, cry later. That's not what we're doing here. We are working with our emotions. We are aware of our emotions and we are letting them pass through us, understanding why they are there. It's creating internal stability so the external chaos of life does not dictate your mood. Now that is power. So what I wanted to get into from the book that I read, To Build the Life That You Want, there is 4 pillars of happiness that they include, and I do agree with this on some level. So number 1, family, the foundation of belonging. Even if your family isn't perfect, it gives you a sense of connection, forgiveness, and allows you to build boundaries and build emotional safety. And without this, we often look for love in unhealthy places. And I'm not saying that, to be happy, you have to have connection with all of your family members, because I know that I sure don't. And you have to look after you first, of course. And, if your family are unhealthy and not good for your life, then of course, do what's best for you first. But having a sense of connection, so this could be chosen family, people that make you feel like you belong. Number 2 is friendship. They say this is the mirror. And this was an interesting paradox that they said was there's a difference between deal friends, which is like transactional, you give me this and I give you that. It's a reason why we're friends sort of thing, For example, you have your fun friends where you go out with them, but then you couldn't just, sit down and maybe have a deep and meaningful conversation because they're your friends that you go out and have fun with. And that's like an energy exchange. It's a transaction and it's like a mutual agreement. So all friends have different purposes and meet different needs in your life. But there's a difference between deal friends and real friends. The real friends care who you're becoming. And true happiness thrives in honest friendships. The ones that see your growth and hold you through your evolution. So the transactional sort of friendships, the ones that sort of you both give each other something, but it's not really that deep, probably aren't as important as the connections that you have with your real friends. Your friends that you can count on who see you. Ever feel like you're meant for more, but something keeps holding you back? Maybe you've read the books, set the goals, but deep down, doubt still creeps in. It's not just about working harder, it's about rewriting your mindset for success. I help ambitious young people break past limiting beliefs, step into their power, and create the life they know they are meant for. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, book in your free discovery call with me today. My website will be linked in the show notes, or you can find me in my Instagram bio. Embracing Power and Potential Coaching Services. A vision to empower 10,000 young people to create a life they truly desire. And then point 3 is work. This is the meaning pillar. Work isn't just what you do for money, but this is how you serve. Happiness deepens when your work aligns with your values, when you are being rewarded internally for the work that you do, when you are being of service to others in your work. It's not about the money. It's about the feeling that you can give other people. Money comes later, and that will come from that energy exchange of you putting meaning and purpose into your work for the greater good of expanding the world and, the people in your life or who you help through your work. When you feel useful, not just successful, that is a pillar of happiness. This brings meaning to your life. And I believe that this is so important. Probably being a coach, this is really in my field, and it is what lights me up to see my clients' goals, to see the breakthroughs that we have together, even when we've stopped working together, and to see them continuously growing. It's like, yes, what I do matters. And then number 4 is faith and spirituality. Faith doesn't have to mean religion. It's the sense of something bigger than you. For example, the universe, purpose, energy, connection. When life doesn't go your way, faith holds structure for the happiness that needs to exist in your life. So when you can believe in a greater purpose of something, in my example, I believe that the universe is always conspiring in my favor. And if something is challenging me or is going wrong right now, I know that it is happening for me, not to me. It is happening so something better can come from it. And it may not be straight away, but the answers will come and it will all work out and I will understand why. But having faith keeps me in a higher vibration instead of falling to fear or stress or unhappiness. I know that I can trust in something greater. And that honestly does give me an extra life force, to be able to just take risks or even just trust that life is always unfolding in a way that it's meant to. And it really does help you be happier just in general with your life, instead of stressing about the unknown or things that you can't change. Just sort of going with it and trusting that your faith holds that structure for you to be happy, even when things aren't going as smoothly. So, out of our 4 pillars of happiness that I got from the book, How to Build Your Life, what pillars are the strongest for you right now? And which ones have you neglected? If I can encourage you to do anything this week, it would be to strengthen one of these pillars, either family, friendship, work, or faith, and strengthen one of these this week. Whether it's just sending a message to a family member or a friend, reconnecting with someone that was important in your life, reflecting on your emotions, or taking a mindful pause in faith. Whatever one you feel like you have maybe been neglecting a little bit. Okay, so the overall theme of this episode is that happiness isn't the absence of unhappiness. You will feel pain, you will feel grief and confusion because we are humans living a human experience. And one of the best parts of that is that we get to feel every sector of the emotional scale. So even when you are feeling that chaos or going in the depths of life, you can still cultivate peaceful happiness underneath it. And a concept that I liked from Oprah in the book that I read is they have a concept called the happiness curve. It naturally fluctuates through life and through different experiences just in your normal day-to-day. When you force constant joy, this creates a sense of shame when you are feeling sad. When you were trying to always be happy and, never feel sadness or never feel anything. And then you're just like, oh, no, I'm always happy. That's like unhealthy optimism. And we need to be able to feel all these emotions that we have as a human because one, that's the only way that we're going to release them. And two, without feeling sadness and grief, we're not going to feel the other paradox of it. We're not going to feel joy and love and excitement. So real happiness is an emotional range. It's your ability to experience disappointment and uncertainty without losing connection to hope, to your faith. And we all hear once I achieve this, I'll be happy. Or once I have this amount of money, then I'll be happy. But the thing is, and the reality is that our brains as humans adapt and it always wants more. Every time we reach that goal, it will be a quick dopamine fix for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're unfulfilled again and you want another level. You do not get happiness from the goal. You get it from the process of becoming. Feeling joy through the journey instead of expecting it at the destination. That is the key. Or have you heard of the myth, happy people don't struggle? Where actually, happy people are just managing struggle differently. They don't resist it, they accept it and they transform it. That's the difference between someone choosing the struggle and choosing to embrace the struggle. And I've heard of, a myth that you can manifest happiness instantly. Like what? What even is happiness? Is it a feeling? Is it emotion? Like how can we manifest happiness? But what you can do is you can attract experiences aligned with joy. True happiness grows from the inner work. It's not having happiness. You create happiness internally. The emotional self-management that we talked about in the few points before, that is key to actually practicing to be a happier person. Practicing working with your emotions. Doing the inner work and healing, traumas, things that you've been through, doing inner child work. All of this inner work leads to being overall happier in your life. And then when we are feeling happier internally, that's the frequency that we're radiating at. So more good frequency, happy experiences will start attracting to us effortlessly. And this is when we become on a cycle and then life just seems to be better. It seems to be more enjoyable. So that's where we want to get. That is the destination of just feeling content with your life, knowing that we will experience a paradox of emotions and being able to balance that and managing them with grace, with curiosity. And this is how we really understand ourselves as humans. So, to finish off the episode, I just want to give you a few practices that you can include and integrate into your routine to start this inner work to become happier. Number 1, what emotion do I choose today? Now, this is something that, would take you a few minutes to write in your morning. What emotion do I choose today? Number 2, micro acts of connection. Sending love, sending gratitude, whether it's to someone you know or a stranger. Checking in with someone. Number 3, after journaling or after movement, asking yourself, where did I feel happiness today? Not pleasure, but calm contentment. And number 4, practicing curiosity when emotions rise instead of judgment. So that's really important, is not judging yourself when you are feeling triggered or when you are feeling disappointed or sad, but instead asking yourself, why am I feeling like this? Be gentle with yourself and understand yourself as a human. Happiness is built moment by moment. If there's anything that you want to take away from this episode, it's that. Through awareness, through connection, through purpose, and through faith. It's not a place that you arrive, it is a path that you walk to creating happiness. So, is happiness actually real? Maybe not as a fixed state, but the direction, the way that you move towards meaning, towards managing your emotions and building connection, that's real. That's the kind of happiness that no one can take away from you. So, what emotion will you practice managing today? And what is the one pillar that you are going to strengthen this week? Maybe happiness isn't about just smiling through life, but about staying open even when it hurts. Because that's what makes us human. So we have to embrace this and be grateful for every part of our human experience. Remember, happiness is a journey. I love you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this episode today. Please reach out to me if, you've read that book or whatever emotion that you're dealing with and how you have managed that, because we know we love to hear you guys' stories and I love connecting with you all. If you could also leave a 5-star rating, we always appreciate that, and definitely reach out to me so we can keep connecting as a community. Love you guys, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.